Hi and welcome back to Sagat Hunter's YouTube channel. This is my fourth video, something like that, in my pastel paper test series. This is Hahnemühle ingres paper, pastel paper, 100 GSM, from my test pack that I bought at Jackson's Art Supplies. I got the non-sanded paper. So I have cut all of my samples actually into two because I want to test them with different medias. One half I save for testing with regular soft pastels and oil pastels. But I'm looking for some paper really to do colored pencil work on, so I'm gonna test them with colored pencils as well. And before I start, I want to make absolutely clear that there's no bad paper in that test pack I got six sheets of non-sanded pastel paper, and they're all good quality paper. So I'm not testing if it's a good or a bad paper. I am looking for a paper that suits my needs, and this paper is not made for colored pencils. If it works, it's fabulous. If it doesn't work with colored pencil, it's not a bad paper. It's just not working with colored pencils. So I'm gonna test this with colored pencils, and I have to say this is really thin. It is nicely textured, but I don't have really super high hopes for it being good with colored pencils. I think it's perhaps too thin, but let us see. I'm gonna pause the camera and I'm gonna sketch up a little drawing here, and I'll try and color it in. So I sketched out a mushroom, loosely inspired from a reference photo from Pixabay. I'll try and keep my paper still here because I need my reference photo here. It's a fungus and I think it's called pretty footed something. And for pencils I have picked Derwent Pro Color because these are fairly hard pencils, and I got my Derwent Color Soft because they are really quite soft. So I want to try both a hard pencil and a soft pencil on here. So let us look. I think this color is good enough as a base color, and it has this kind of a pattern on it with some loops and red veins. So I'll try and see if I can draw them without it being too much like a weird pattern. Well, this color goes on quite nicely. This is a Color Soft pencil. This looks terrible. I'll probably have to redraw this anyways because it's a drawing I have wanted to do for a while. But this stuff on the stalk I need to practice a few times. Kind of goes wrong down there. But the paper seems to take the color here as I am lining it up. It was nice also to draw the sketch in graphite. So single line work is fine. I should try and do it like this instead. No, it has to be. Yeah, I need to figure out a technique to draw that pattern because I ain't got it right now, but that's the beauty of it. If I fail, I get to do it again. And next time it will be better. And I think that is another reason why it's kind of important to draw subjects that you like to look at. And that is one of the things I find difficult if I have to draw something for somebody else. If I don't like the subject, it is really, really difficult for me to do. Either if it's something I find is ugly or if it's just kind of boring. It doesn't really matter. I have to spend so much time here, so I really have to like what I'm looking at. Well, it's not. Now I'm looking at the reference photo. It's not even as regular as I thought it was. So this is actually not too terrible. And we got kind of like a slightly more than yellow ochre. Sunset gold probably would be a good color too. And up at the top of the stalk it is kind of a little bit of the same, but in a smaller texture. So I'll just hint at some texture here. This part I'm enjoying this paper, so that is good. I got some sketch paper and stuff from Hahnemühle that I enjoy using for that. And it's one of those brands that are really sold all over the world, so that kind of speaks for quality. There's two things that would get you kind of a worldwide sale, and one is if you're really good, and the other thing is if you're just really, really cheap. But this paper is not of the cheap brands. It's not super expensive either. Well, it's a German brand, and I'm living right north of Germany, so it's not like we get to pay a lot of transport and stuff. So here, excuse me, here we get it for a reasonable price, but it's not low-end prices. So I've looked at the price of this particular paper, and I'm not sure how much meaning that really gives to talk too much about, because it costs something different everywhere. I need a different kind of yellowish for the, and yeah, this doesn't have the line lamels or whatever they're called. It's kind of more like spongy. So again, not too much structure that is hard to work. Right now, this is just like a base layer, so this is, I'm at a stage where all kinds of paper would do this. But it feels good and it doesn't feel like I'm filling the tooth up too quickly. Which is nice, because if the tooth is full then I can't layer. And that is where the real test comes in. And there's some little holes in here, that's what I kind of sketched in there, and I needed really deep shadow in there along the stalk. I'm doing this a little more sketchy than I normally would because I'm filming this and I haven't my editor that I could use. I can't figure out how to speed videos up in there yet. So I have to upload this real time, and if I'm being too finicky with all the details, it will take too long. I don't want to put up a 3-hour video. But also don't want to sit here and just swatch on all these papers, because swatches does not necessarily, of course it gives you an idea of how the paper is, but seriously, using it is the best test you can do, because your pressure is, my pressure at least, is very different from when I'm swatching and when I'm actually drawing. Or coloring. So I'm not sure that a swatch for me will work well. I'm putting in a slightly different yellow here because it wasn't quite the shade I wanted. I can do some extra. If you use more than one color in this on top of each other, it gives it a different depth of color. I'll use this down here on the stalk and pull it down in the red a bit. Yeah, more colors give more depth to the coloration. The other Hahnemühle paper I tested, I was not super impressed with colored pencils, but it was fantastic with pastels. So even though I'm looking for colored pencil paper, then I might buy some of that for pastel work. There was one test I did that I didn't show the result of. It does bleed through with the oil pastel a little bit, but not as bad as it could be. It was fantastic with colored pencil, with regular pastels. It wasn't very good with the pastel pencil either. Actually, I want this to fit better. So and for the top I need a reddish brown. Let's try nutmeg. And this is not a mistake. On my reference photo, the edge is actually really well defined in a darker tone of brown than the rest of the mushroom. So that's what I'm putting in here. And it's kind of a wee darker on the top here as well. I'm quite pleased with this. This works better than the Lana color pastel paper. It has also a lot more tooth. Yeah, sorry I had to pause the camera and I kind of forgot what I was talking about. Anyways, this seemed to take the color quite nicely. And like my last test, I'm gonna try some pastel pencils for the background. I am not testing with odorless minute spirit and stuff like that because I don't like working with that. I could test it if anybody wants me to. But as of now, I'm just dry blending and layering. Now, I'll try and zoom in a little bit here. You can see the texture of the paper showing through my pencil coloring here. There's a few things to do about that. The easy solution is to just ignore it and just let it be part of the drawing. It gives it kind of its own kind of character, if you like. Or you can just keep on coloring until you finally get it filled in. Now, I'm always using pencils that is not necessarily super pointed, but I keep moving them around, so I always got a little bit of a sharp edge. But if I sharpen it super pointy, I could work the color into the paper, but I prefer this way. I don't want to sit and sharpen my pencils all the time, and I always end up getting the result I like anyways. So the other thing is to you can use a dry blender or a burnisher, or you can put so many layers on that the tooth of the paper fills up. I'm going to use this color to start working on the shading in here. I didn't put very much color in there at the first place because I want to make sure I get my darks dark enough. It's one of the big, I won't call it mistakes, but it's one of the things where a lot of people lose the reality, or or not the reality, the realism feel of a drawing, is because lots of people are afraid of using the darks enough, and that means that the subject end up looking kind of flat if it's all the same shade. So don't be afraid. Do some dark shadows here and there. It doesn't have to be a lot, but some. As far as the layering goes, okay, so I might be wrong about this paper being too thin for colored pencils. I want a different kind of brown in there. This is a sepia. This is a dark, so I'll go in and darken the deepest part of the shadow again. I want a bit up here as well to darken that one up. It doesn't take a lot of color in each layer with these Pro Color. That is to a great extent a function of the pencil being so hard. As it is. But with hard pencils, it doesn't help you pushing hard on them. Just keep on layering and you will get good results anyways. It gives a little more control over what you're doing when you use a hard pencil, because you can actually correct a few things if the first layer you put down isn't quite as you wanted. You can go back in and correct it, and it won't show as much as if you have used a better zoom out a little bit again. If you have used a soft pencil, because soft pencil, they just put a lot of color on right at once, and once it's there, it's a little hard to get rid of again, and it's harder to color over to make a correction. But with harder pencils, you get to go forth and back a few times and correct things. Copper Beach, that one. It has a little bit of a grey tone to it here in the middle of the, I don't know, what do you call this? The top, the hood of a mushroom? So shading back here, in there. So yeah, layering with this seems to work okay. I haven't had, starting to maybe feel a little shiny in there. That's also where I got the most layers. Yeah. I'd say it's better than the other. I'm maybe not super convinced with the Pro colors. Now I got some ferns here, or not ferns, well, some moss here, so I'll try and use some of these color softs for that. This will be my shade color, but really bright green. That is broken. It feels wiggly in there. I'm not going to be very specific about how things go here. I'm just going to kind of follow the feel of the movement and how it grows, and put some shadows and stuff in there. Because I want this to be the focal point. So this goes down really good, and it covers the texture of the paper quite nicely. So, but that's not unexpected, I'd say. I'm not surprised about that. So, yeah, this color soft works really well on this paper. But I'm not surprised, because I've used these pencils on really rough paper before, and that is where they really shine. They quickly fill up the tooth of finer grained paper, so you don't get very many, if almost if any, layering on there on smooth paper, but they're super good on rough paper, on like pastel matte, which isn't sanded, but it works a little bit like sanded pastel paper. They're just phenomenal. But they are finicky with what kind of paper they work on, these ones. So It's a little difficult to see this one on top of all the others because it's a little more dull and muted. But it adds to the depth of things here. Try to let it go down there a little bit. I'm going to try and use this to shade some of the stuff up here. It can be done, but it's not. But this is also have had quite a few layers already. Yeah, I'm a little you know, I don't think this paper is gonna be my prime choice for colored pencils, but it can be used, absolutely. So if you can get it for a decent price and you need maybe something to just do some sketches on, something, this is kind of a loose sketch type of thing, and it works okay for that. I would like a paper that could maybe take a little bit more layering before it's filled up. Test this up here on the corner. It's called cranberry, but it looks brownish, so yeah, I want this up here. Do this edge again. So I could work a lot more on this, and I could probably get pretty much the result I was looking for if I put enough layers down. But it is already in points, getting to the point where it's getting difficult. So I think I will I'll try and stop it a little bit. I'm just wanting to have a little more of the shading here in place before I stop. I don't want to deem it out or in or anything. I want to test out the other kinds before I finally make up my mind which one I like the better or the least. So it was by no means terrible to use. It works better with the soft than the hard pencils. So let me pause the camera and I'll bring out the pastel pencils again. So this is my Derwent pastel pencil set, and no, I didn't order to fix the color. They're here in random order. So let me have a check with my reference photo. And yeah, it's a greenish dark background. Probably not too unlike actually the one I did with the bee eater on the last test. Indigo. What are you? Burn number. We'll do burn number. This company. Seal. No. Blue gray. I guess that can be used. So. Now this is kind of more along the lines what this paper is made for. So it should work. And it does, it works, but yeah, that was a little flake that came off the tip of my pencil here. And it should, as this is pastel paper. It did not work well on the liner color paper, but this is okay. It's like a tree root that sticks up there in the background. It takes way better to this than the last paper, but there's also lots more tooth to this paper. So I'll say yes to both colored pencils and pastel pencils on this. This works nice. Yeah, and the thing is with pastel pencils, you can't really put them on top of colored pencils. They won't take because of the wax. And yes, I shouldn't put my fingers in this, but it's a sketch and I'm not pulling out my color shapers for this. I don't want this, I don't need this to be around for 100 years or even 20 years, not even 5 years from now I am gonna care about it. This is a sketch, it's a test. Now if I decide to, once I find the right paper that I like to work with, I might go in and actually turn this into a proper piece of finished artwork, and then we'll be much more careful where we stick our karate fingers. Yeah, the lines are okay. It doesn't smear quite as well as the liner on the liner color paper, but that is also not surprising given that this is so heavily textured. I actually like that the texture of the paper shows through. If I'm grabbing my zoom again, I can show you. It got this kind of canvas-like feel to it, and I actually quite like that. Yeah, I want to get some cover done, so I'm holding it sideways so I get to use the most amount of the lead. Or the strip or the core or the mine, whichever you prefer to call it. Zoom out again because see what I'm doing. I'm quite sure I like this a lot with the regular pastels, the oil and the soft pastel, because it has a good grip to it, good texture. Go. Kind of mixed color background here. Now, pastel pencils doesn't mix the same way as colored pencils do. Ooh, this is not good. It pills. That's not impressive. And it was the whole surface of the paper that peeled off there. So, no. It's the same problem that I had with the other paper. It's not strong enough to take the scrubbing of the pastel pencil. You can always go in with pastel pencils and add details, but I'm getting increasingly more convinced that they're not really suitable for entire pieces like this. So this is not very impressive. So put these aside, and I need 2 seconds. I need to wipe my hands. So let us make notes here. I'll give it an okay. It was not fantastic, but it was okay. And I will say no to pastel pencils. Because it peeled bad down here. So, but I think it's because these pastel pencils, they're actually quite hard. So, and this paper is made for something that is not scrubbing so hard on it. I think it would also be bad with markers actually. But now I'm not on the market for marker paper. I don't really want to use markers on this. And one thing is my Pit pens here. That's the thing. But I don't want to put alcohol markers or watercolor markers on this because this is I know this paper actually. I've used similar kinds earlier, and this is very absorbent. So if you use alcohol marker on this, then you'll just soak the ink out of your marker. So if you use markers on this kind of paper, you can do it, but it will run dry really fast. So yeah, for this test it is kind of meh. It's not terrible, but it's also not fantastic. It's kind of mid performance, and I can see there's lots of shiny spots where I have filled the tooth of the paper in already. You can kind of see it if I warp it like that. And up there on the top is also not room for much more. So yeah, me is my professional opinion about this. So thank you for watching, and I'll be back with the pastel test later. Take care, bye, like, subscribe, all that.